Welcome back to another exciting episode on the show, Control or Be Controlled. A podcast designed to help you start thinking differently and take control of your life. And as always, I remain your host, Darlington. Today's guest is Susan Johnson, an author, inspirational speaker, and passionate mental health advocate who has been living with bipolar disorder since 1995. Rather than allowing her diagnosis to define her, Susan has dedicated her life to breaking the stigma surrounding mental illness and offering hope to others. She is the author of Some Dreams Are Worth Keeping, a memoir of my bipolar journey, and has delivered a powerful TEDx talk titled Having a Mental Illness is Not a Death Sentence. And she has been recognized for her writing and advocacy by Healthline and BP Hope magazine. Susan, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Darlington. I'm really excited to be here with you today.
All right, Susan. Susan. So for listeners who may not be familiar with it, what is bipolar disorder and what are some of the biggest misconceptions about it?
Which are highs and devastating lows to the point of suicide. It is a genetic illness and it can be treated with medication.
Okay, Susan. So my next question for you is this. I'm sorry, I have to mute you when I'm speaking because I think there's a little bit of a reverb. So you were diagnosed in 1995. Tell us how that diagnosis changed your life, and what was your journey towards acceptance like?
I was diagnosed when I went on a cruise in 1995. Prior to that, I was in high school and had experienced very low depressions, and my parents were able to recognize that. My mom's a nurse. She took me to my first psychologist and we were able to work through the depression. And then the cruise followed after high school and I experienced some crazy highs, meaning things that were very uncharacteristic for me. I was going down the water slide in a very cold climate and the pool was really cold. I was up all night. I had these grandiose ideas. My speech was very, very fast. I was dancing on tables, even though I'm not a drinker. I was drinking margaritas and I got into a fight with my friend that ended up in, we ended up having to separate that weekend because the room was not big enough for the both of us. And I didn't really realize that there was something wrong with me till after the cruise and my mom came to pick me up. And she knew right away because my uncle has bipolar disorder and it's a genetic illness. She knew that I had bipolar, but when you're in that state, you think that everything's okay. And I hated hospitals. So luckily she was working for an insurance company and she was able to find a doctor who would treat me without being in the hospital. I began lithium and my father stayed home and watched or was with me so that I didn't have any major side effects to the drug. And then I moved on to college and I had to accept it at that time, which was very, very difficult because in college I had a lot of stress, and when you have stress, it ends up, it sets the bipolar disorder off.
Okay, Susan, thank you so much. So I want to know how you got inspired to write Some Dreams Are Worth Keeping, and what do you hope readers will take away from reading about your own story?
I wrote the book because I needed healing. I had gone through a lot of highs and devastating lows to the point where I didn't want to live anymore. And I was running away from a past and things were starting to seep up, memories and dreams. And I know I needed to heal. And I had heard that there was a how to write a memoir workshop. I live in Las Vegas at a casino. And I went to the workshop, and then I bought a book on how to write a memoir. And it was very hard to do it on my own. So I went to a junior college and took a class on how to write a memoir workshop. And after 3 years and having a mentor who was a 90-year-old man by the name of Bob Colley, I finished the book, and I knew that it could bring education, inspiration, and hope to many people. So I decided to get it published.
So, what do you hope readers will take away from the book?
Definitely what it feels like to have bipolar disorder, and that there is hope and that there is help. I live a very successful life. And if you take medication, you see a therapist, you take care of yourself, you sleep 8 to 10 hours, you exercise, that you can have success. I work in a school with special education students with learning disabilities, and am happily married. Been married for 19 years. And there are ways to have success, but you have to work really hard at it.
Okay, so moving on to the next question. Your story is very, very, will I say, different, and it's a success story. So tell us what success look like for someone who is living with a mental illness.
What success looks like?
Yes.
Success is being able to live with bipolar disorder and people don't even know that you have it. Just finding the stability. It's like being on a tightrope. If you're walking on a tightrope and you're able to stay on without falling off, which is really easy to do. It takes years, and just making sure you're taking the medicine, I think, is where it all starts, and having a lot of support from friends and family, and perhaps priests or pastors if you're religious like I am.
Okay, Susan. So tell us the daily habits, routines, or strategies that helped you manage your mental health and continue pursuing your dreams. Something that the audience can learn from.
Definitely, I'd say a routine. Getting up at the same time every morning, eating at the same time, exercising certain days of the week. Definitely time with friends and phone calls with loved ones. I keep in touch with a dear friend, and we text each other every day. I call her my text support, and that's very helpful. Definitely seeing a therapist or psychologist is a big secret to my success, I would say.
All right, Susan. So you have chosen to share your story publicly. Was that decision a difficult one? And why do you believe your vulnerability is so important?
I want to break stigma, and I had the chance to do a TEDx talk. Have you ever heard of that, Darlington? Well, if you haven't heard of it, a TEDx talk is an idea what's worth sharing on a big stage. And was asked to give one on having a mental illness is not a death sentence. So I got to share my bipolar journey on the big stage, and it took a lot of courage and time. It took over 2 years, and I had to memorize the part that I did for 15 minutes. and it was really, really, really stressful and hard, but I'm very proud of it. You can look it up on YouTube. It's having a mental illness is not a death sentence, and it is helping people realize that it's okay to have a mental illness. You're not crazy. And it's also helping families understand what it's like to live with bipolar disorder.
Okay, so Susan, how has your faith and your family and your support system helped you through most difficult seasons of your life?
Just by being there, my husband is there for me, and he might not understand what I'm going through, but he is always just so loving and just a hug, just being there for me. My best friend, I call her Penny in the book, has been there for me faithfully through every high and low. We've known each other since I was 6, and I just turned 50 a couple weeks ago. And I'm very, very blessed to have her faithfully by my side, not judging me. My psychologists have always been important. I called one Dr. Ziggy in the memoir. I wouldn't be here without her today. And my current psychologist continues to help me at dealing with the stresses that working in my school brings up. And I'm definitely blessed to have all these people in my life to hold me up when things get hard.
Okay, Susan, thank you so much. So, my next question for you is this. You work as an instructional assistant with special education students. How has your own life experience influenced the way you connect with and support others?
Because I know how hard it is to go to school. Since I have bipolar things, I struggled in math quite a bit. So I'm definitely able to see their point of view. So that gives me a different perspective, and I'd say more patience. And I try to be encouraging to them and just be a light in their darkness.
Okay, so tell us about your experience with your TEDx talk.
Well, I think I already touched on that. It was definitely a dream come true, but I don't think I would go through it again just because of the stress that was involved. It happened during the pandemic, and there were only allowed 50 people in the room. So everybody had to buy a ticket and watch it at home, live streamed. So my husband wasn't even able to be in the room, but I practiced through Toastmasters International, which is a public speaking group. And I am very happy. I came out with a lot of energy and passion, and definitely broke stigma. And I hope that people check it out. It's called Having a Mental Illness is Not a Death Sentence, and it's on YouTube.
Okay, so thank you so much, Susan. So, talking about your book as well, your book, is there something you have in your book that you wish that no reader should miss?
That I wished
That you wish that all readers should get and not miss?
that I wish that other readers would get?
Yes.
Just an understanding of, if you don't live with a mental illness, of what it's like. And for those who do live with a mental illness, that it's a really, really hard journey. But if you just keep going and you keep pushing forward, things really do get better. So to just hold on.
Okay, so for someone who has just been diagnosed with a mental illness or feels like life will never get better, what words of hope would you leave with them?
Definitely things will get better, but you have to adjust. You have to be open to help, and you have to be patient with yourself. And I think being forgiving with yourself too, that no one's perfect, and just education, definitely become educated in what you're living with, and also perhaps find support groups online that might be able to help just by doing searches on the web. There are a lot of online support groups and in-person ones as well.
All right, Susan. So, if is there a question you wish I would have asked you that I did not ask you?
How has it affected my marriage? I think would be the question. I think it's hard enough to be married, but then when you put bipolar disorder into the marriage, it becomes more challenging. Definitely. My husband has to be patient and sensitive and willing to forgive me when I get into particular states and sadness. So I'm blessed to have such a wonderful husband. A lot of people end up in divorce living with bipolar disorder, and we beat the odds every single day.
Then how can my listeners connect with you and buy your book?
I would go on Amazon to books, and Some Dreams Are Worth Keeping, a memoir of my bipolar journey by Susan Johnson. You could go to my website, which is sjohnsonauthor.com. You can follow me on Instagram and Facebook under S Johnson Books. And you can also see my TED Talk on my website or on YouTube. Having a mental illness is not a sentence, and I am in the process of writing another book. It'll be self-help, and I hope to get it published next summer.
All right, Susan, thank you so much. This has been an exciting episode so far, and I really, really appreciate you for joining us today. So to my audience as well, I love you guys so much. Make sure you check out Susan's work and try and share this episode with someone who might be struggling with mental illness or feels like their life is over. Susan, thank you for coming to my show.
Thank you so much for having me, Darlington.